This episode is kind of a special one. I'm going to go back to the beginning. I'm going to tell my story of how I got here today, what was going on in my life, who I was as a person before I got my real estate license and before I became an agent, and then dive a little deeper into how I went from struggling agent to an agent selling some homes, and then now to someone that you're listening to on a podcast, right? If I promise you guys, if I can do this, you can do this. And this story today will prove it. What is up, everybody? Welcome to the Massive Agent Podcast. Welcome to episode 189 of the Massive Agent Podcast. I am your host, Dustin Brohm. Actually, it's episode 190. Yeah, 189 was last week. Welcome to episode 190 of the Massive Agent Podcast. This episode is a little bit different. I've been putting off recording this one just because I didn't know what the hell I was going to say or how I was going to say it. But I'm just going to roll with it. And, there's no such thing as perfection, right? That's what I'm always telling you guys. Just record, say something. It's never going to be perfect. Just get the message out and it'll find the right people. So I'm hoping today that this message of my story and how I got to where I'm at today and all the bullshit that I had to go through to get here, I'm hoping that it finds you and the right people. Hopefully you are the right person. So the reason why I'm telling you this is it seems like over the last few months, I've been getting a lot more messages, a lot more people saying, well, that's great, but you have a podcast. That's cool that you can do that because you're this. You can do that because you speak at events. You can do that because of whatever. If you only knew. And so today's episode will help you know. Okay, so I'm going to go back and tell my story even before I got into real estate, because I think that that's important for you to understand where I started. We all start at a different place when we get into real estate. We all start, I like to use the analogy of a goal line. Some of us start much closer to the goal line than others. Some of us are on the opposite side of the field and have to drive the whole field to score a touchdown. That was me. Okay. And I'll explain why here in a second. Quick announcement. And I should probably introduce myself in case this is your first episode listening. Welcome to the show, guys. My name is Dustin Brohm, your host, and I am the co-founder of the Industry Syndicate podcast network and founder and creator of the Massive Agent Society business generation real estate growth company program training thing. Yeah. Well, butchered the hell out of that, but you get it. Massive Agent Society, big relaunch coming end of the month. It's going to be 3 to 4 times better than it was before. It's going to have 3 or 4 times more content, and the value is going to be 10 times what it was. I promise you that. So right now, before I get into my story, I need to tell you about the Massive Agent Social Bootcamp. We just did session 1 yesterday, session 2 yesterday. So we're already halfway through the boot camp. I've already had a handful of people join the waiting list for the next one. I've decided, yes, we will do another social boot camp, which is cool. There's just been so many of you guys that for some reason didn't jump on it the first time. Whatever, I get it. But we're going to be doing it a second time. I don't know when yet. This is not the official announcement that it's happening, other than to say it is happening. What you can do right now, and what I highly recommend you do if you want to get in and be one of the 20 for the next social boot camp, is go to massiveagentbootcamp.com and get on the waiting list. Okay, put your email address on there, get on the waiting list. The reason why is twofold. First off, we're going to notify you. We're going to notify the wait list before we announce it here on the show, before I announce it on the email list, before I announce it on social media. Basically, before we tell the rest of the world that we're doing it, it's going to be open to those on the waiting list. And probably the equally as important, there will be a price increase for the next social boot camp, except for those who are on the wait list. If you are on the wait list, you will have the opportunity to get in at the current pricing, not on the next pricing. Okay, the price that it will increase to once we announce it to the public. So go over to massiveagentbootcamp.com, get on the waiting list, and we'll notify you as soon as we are ready to open up registration for the next one, which we are going to do. It's just been so much fun. It's just been so impactful. I love the dynamic of having 20 people because I can really dive deep with everybody, and you can get my personal attention and support if you need it. And I can't do that if there's 100 or 150 people there. So yeah, so that's going to be cool. All right. So I'm 38 years old. Okay. Salt Lake City, Utah. Lived here basically my whole life, except for a year away for college. Growing up, I was very middle class. I'd say lower middle class, or maybe the middle of middle class. I don't know. Didn't have a ton of money to do stuff. Whenever we went on vacations, they were camping trips. I loved those. I've certainly grown an appreciation for the outdoors and for nature and the mountains and everything because of that. So I'm grateful for that. But I can remember one vacation when I was a kid that we flew on a plane, and we went to Disneyland, and I think I was 13 or 14 at the time. So we just didn't, we didn't have a ton of money for stuff. We certainly weren't, I don't want to say we were scraping by. It didn't feel like that as a kid. My parents might say otherwise, but it was a good childhood, but it certainly wasn't fancy. I did not, like, my parents were employees. They worked for other companies. I didn't have any business owners in my family or anywhere in my life. And so I looked at business owners as rich people. I looked at rich people as other people. Like, they're different, and I didn't understand why, but I knew I wanted to be one. I wanted to be a business owner. I wanted to have control. I wanted to be rich. I wanted to have all that stuff, right? But I just didn't know. I didn't think that it was possible for me. It was just something that I wanted. Had no idea how to get it. So I graduate high school, go to college, lived in Alamosa, Colorado for a semester, which is this little podunk town in South Central Colorado. And when the wind blows from the west, there was a mushroom farm to the west. So the smell of shit just overcomes the whole damn town, the whole college. It was memorable, to say the least. It was a huge culture shock for me because I'd always lived in Salt Lake, or at least in the suburbs of Salt Lake, my whole life. And going to this small town in the middle of nowhere, where like the biggest hangout, like the biggest attraction was the Walmart Supercenter, which is where I got my ears pierced my freshman year in college, by the way, at the Walmart Supercenter. That was fantastic. It was just a huge culture shock. So I didn't last long there. Plus I got injured. I went to play football, ended up getting injured. And I'm like, I freaking hate this. So I went back, lived in St. George, Utah, went to Dixie for a semester, loved that, and hated it because I was broke and didn't have any money. And then went back to Salt Lake. I've been here ever since. I've been super stoked. But then I started working. Okay. Then I got a job detailing cars. I got a job in a call center being a debt collector. And it's interesting because at the time, you don't realize how certain things will train you to be good at other things later on down the road. Being in a call center for a couple of years in a few different positions, because of course, when I was 18, 19, 20, I couldn't keep a job more than 6 months, 9 months, because I would just quit or get fired or whatever, because I was a piece of shit. But I didn't realize that I was learning some skills that would help me later on. Then I then I was bussing tables. I was waiting tables at my favorite restaurant in Salt Lake. And at the same time, I was working for backcountry.com. And I thought those were my dream jobs, at least the backcountry.com one, because I got to talk about snowboards and, camping gear all day long. And so I thought that was my dream job. Plus I got a pretty hefty discount on that stuff. And I was working both jobs at the same time. And because of where I was just a shitty employee. I ended up this was 2009, I believe. I ended up getting fired from both jobs within the same week. It's for being late constantly and, just not being reliable. And at the time, it was like the most traumatic thing ever. Like, oh my gosh, my dream job, I just lost it. Now I have no money and blah, blah, blah. And what that did is it sent me to a very dark place where I was searching for the next thing. And my mom, she was like, "Hey, I heard this ad for a Rich Dad, Poor Dad seminar thing. When was it? No, I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad first. My mom recommended that I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad. That's how it happened. I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and I'm like, I don't know anything about this real estate thing. Sounds weird, but if this will teach me how to be rich, which I've always thought would be cool, awesome. So I read it, completely opened my eyes to the fact that anyone could become an entrepreneur. Anyone could run their own business. Anyone could control their income. And before I read that book, I had no idea. I just thought rich people and wealthy people and successful people were other people that were just different. And so that book opened my eyes. And then not too long after, my mom said, "Hey, I heard about this Rich Dad, Poor Dad seminar thing that's happening in a couple of weekends. You want to go?" And I'm like, over the weekend, at the time, like, wanted to hang out with my friends and all that. I was like, okay, because that book was pretty cool. So yeah, so I went and learned about real estate investing, and the way that they showed real estate investors could live and what you could do as an investor and all that made me decide, all right, I've got to get into real estate. This is the path that I want, because if that guy over there can make 100 grand in a month by flipping a house, I want to do it too. And of course I thought, being a young 20 something idiot, that it was that easy, right? I could just start flipping homes, flip a house a month, make 100K a month, 1.2 million for the year. Bing, bang, boom, I'm rich, right? That's what I thought. And I saw it on TV. A&E, flipped this house on A&E with Armando Montalongo, if you guys remember that, and then the dudes in Atlanta. Loved that show, but it just gave me a false impression of how quickly and easily that type of income could be generated in real estate. So through this training, they said, "Hey, you should go find a local real estate investor association." So I'm like, okay, cool. So my parents and I, we decided to get into business together. We're going to flip homes and we're going to make millions of dollars. And so we find this local real estate investor association, and the president happened to be a real estate broker. And as we're going through the process, we ended up flipping a house. We relied on some other realtor, because I did not have my license at the time. We relied on some other realtor to tell us what the house would be worth after we fixed it up. And he was off. He was way off. Now, this is back in 2010, 2011. We bought a short sale, and was it? No, it was a bank-owned property. We bought a bank-owned property. It was not a short sale. And we bought it for like what was it, 110K, or maybe it was 88,000. It was so freaking cheap, because right now in Salt Lake, the median home price is over 400. Back then it was not, it was 200 something or even less. And we bought this place. We ended up putting about 18,000 into it to fix it up, thinking it would be worth X. And it was not worth that, because our realtor didn't know how to evaluate the property. He was off by about 10 or 12,000 bucks. Well, that 10 or 12,000 ate up all of our profit. And we're like, this doesn't make any sense. So what can we do? We ended up renting that property and cash flowing $600 a month off that one door, which is amazing. Like, that's really, really good cash flow for one unit. And we ended up holding that for years until the property went up to almost 200K in value. We had a bunch of equity and we were cash flowing and all that, and decided to sell it. But it was that experience that made me realize, okay, if I'm going to do this investing thing, I need to have my real estate license. Because if I don't have any control over, I don't have access to information. I don't have the MLS. I don't have the data. I don't know how to run comps myself, so that I can run the numbers for myself, so that the same shitty situation doesn't happen again. And so that's why I got my license, is to be a better investor. Now, the president of that association, he recommended you need to get your license, because it'll help prevent that stuff. And you can make some commission whenever you buy or sell your own properties. So I'm like, that's amazing. Because so far there's been 0 paydays in real estate. And then he tells me there's some paydays available in real estate. So if I get my license, so I'm like, shit, I should probably do that. And I got my license, and I don't know exactly how this happened and over what period of time this happened, but I believe I was working for my broker, doing some work every now and then at his real estate office, processing short sales. That's what I was doing. And somehow, once I got my license, they asked if I wanted to work with a buyer. And I was like, I have no idea how to do that. I was just going to flip homes. But yes, if there's a commission at the end, then yes. So I did. I worked with this buyer, helped them buy a short sale. And after the team split and after all the stuff and the on the short sale, they were only paying 2% to the buyer's agent at the time anyways. I didn't realize that you can ask for more and all of that. I didn't understand all that. So at the end, I made like $1,100, but it was a paycheck. And I'm like, holy crap, there's actually money. I can actually earn a living here. There's actual paydays if I represent other clients. So I really leaned into that. And that's what got me becoming a full-time real estate agent, helping buyers and sellers. But it was not all uphill. Okay. Or depending on how you define uphill, it was uphill in the fact that it was freaking hard. And I didn't know what the hell I was doing. So I had a mentor who was part of my broker's real estate team. I loosely say team because they provided signs and mentorship and some clients every now and then. But it wasn't a true high powered team like you'd see today, but we were splitting everything 50-50. I thought that was fair. I thought I'd do that for a year or two in the beginning so that I could learn. And in hindsight, that was actually a very good choice. It was a very good investment because if I went out on my own, I would have had nothing. Now there are models today, like the brokerage I'm with, where you can actually get mentorship, get support, team up with people that are killing it. It'll give you their blueprint without having to split commission with them. That's pretty awesome, but that didn't exist back then. At least I didn't know that it existed back then. And it certainly wasn't what it is today. So I'm like 50-50 split. That makes sense. I need the mentorship. So following my mentor, very different personality than me. He liked to cold call and door knock and talk to people at the grocery store and wear his stupid name tag around and just talk to everybody about real estate. He was that type of person. And I hated every second of that. But the problem was in my pea brain, I did not understand that realtors could operate in any other way. I literally thought that was the only way that all real estate agents on the planet did business. That was the only way real estate agents could get clients to work with. I did not understand there were other ways yet. And so after a few years of doing that, I'm just like, this isn't working. I hate doing this. And when I hate it, I'm not good at it. When I'm not good at it, I hate it. And I just wasn't having any real results. Well, at the time that I got my real estate license, I had just met my wife. We were dating. We ended up getting engaged and married. And, during the first few years of my real estate career, 3 years in, actually, our first son, Jackson, my only son, but our firstborn, Jackson, he was born. And I completely underestimated how becoming a parent for the first time with very, very little income would just throw a monkey wrench into everything. And so, oh man, that was just taking so much time and mental energy. And my wife was cleaning homes at the time, trying to get some extra money coming in for us. And so when she was doing that, I was staying with Jackson, and it was just not conducive to a growing real estate business. I was tired all the time, feeling down, blah, blah, blah. And so we were struggling a lot. And there were some times where, like, without my wife's permission, I'm not even going to share this part of the story, but we almost didn't make it numerous times because of the financial struggles. We were not even paying our bills on time. And some of them weren't getting paid at all. And so out of necessity, I went to Google and I just Googled how to get real estate leads. And I just happened to come across a website from Easy Agent Pro. It was a blog, and they're like, hey, try this. Here's this idea. How about this? Have you considered this? All these different lead generation strategies that was so different than what my mentor was showing me. And it's not even a knock on him. He was doing what worked for him because of his personality. But I started to see, wait a minute, you can actually like attract business to you instead of chasing it down all the time. And that was a huge paradigm shift. Huge, huge paradigm shift for me. And so I started reading their blog and started learning more about attraction marketing, content marketing, how you can put a video or an article or, even if it's a freaking flyer or something that you put some, or a free ebook that you putting out on your website, excuse me, you are attracting business to you. And so I started looking into that, and I'm like, who else is doing this? And I found a group of real estate bloggers that were getting all of their business from their real estate blogs. And I connected with them on Google Plus, on G Plus. I connected with them, and I just started following what they were doing. And, luckily some of them were open enough to give me some pointers and direction. And I ended up launching my first website with Easy Agent Pro. I'm like, if I'm going to really commit to this, I need the best website possible. And I saw that as Easy Agent Pro. I still believe it's the best value in the industry, no doubt. But at the time it was only $160 per month. But when I was used to paying $20 or $40 for my premium website at my previous brokerage, which was pure dog shit, by the way, absolutely atrocious websites that look like they're 30 years old, because they haven't been updated since. Going from that $20 or $40 a month for a website to 160 was like, holy shit, how am I ever going to afford this? This is going to be expensive. Oh, there's levels to this game, right? Some of you were like, yeah, that's pretty expensive. And some of you were like, what the hell are you talking about? Well, at the time that was expensive to me when you don't have any money. And so I had to borrow that, and I had to borrow the $500, which they had at the time to, what was it? The startup fee, the activation fee for your website. So it was like $660 to get started with the site, but I knew I needed to do it. So I borrowed that money. I borrowed that money from my parents. I started my blog and just dove in. And luckily, I had some good mentors. Luckily, I was able to follow their lead and just kind of rip off and duplicate stuff that they were already doing. I don't mean literal plagiarism, guys, not good, but taking an idea and then putting your own spin on it, totally cool. That's all anyone successful has ever done, ever, unless you're an inventor, which, that's another story. So I start blogging, and a few months in, somebody found a YouTube video that I did where I really just recorded myself ranting about Zillow's Zestimates on Snapchat. I downloaded that, put it on YouTube. Someone found that, went to my website, and decided that they wanted to call me and hire me. And I get a call out of the blue. I'll never forget this call from Nate. And he's like, hey, we saw your website, we saw your video. We really need to buy a house. Can we hire you? Will you work with us? And I'm like, the first thought was like, huh, you mean interview with you? That's what I thought. That's what I was used to. And they're like, yeah, can you meet us at Starbucks or whatever? And you can tell us what we need to do to get started. And I'm like, this doesn't sound like an interview. So I go meet them. And sure enough, they had decided before we'd even met in person that they were going to hire me as their agent. That was so revolutionary for me. But it validated everything I thought was possible with attraction marketing, with content marketing. I could attract people to me that would decide they wanted to hire me without me even knowing that that's happening in the background. And it happened fairly quickly within the first few months. Thank God I got that validation, because it lit me on fire. I had a client to work with. We went and found him a house. I kept doing what I was doing. I keep writing articles. I kept getting better. And through that process, I'm like, okay, I'm on the right path. And I just got really good at social media marketing. I got good at choosing topics of what to write about and what to do content about, because I realized people have to give a shit. People have to actually want to read it or consume it first. Otherwise, they won't. And so I got really good at that. And that led me to Facebook ads and social media and all the stuff that I think I'm pretty damn good at today, that we've talked a lot about on the show. I learned out of necessity, because I learned once you write an article or create a piece of content, that's just step one. Then you have to get people to see it. You actually have to get people to know that that content exists. They have to actually know it exists, then watch it or read it or click to your website. So I had to learn how to promote the content as well. And I absolutely fell in love with that. Absolutely fell in love. So I'm starting to finally sell some homes, and I'm like, you know what? I'm on Snapchat. I understand Snapchat. I'm going to just start telling other agents. I'm going to speak to the industry about what I'm doing. I'm just going to document what I'm doing throughout the day to grow my business. And maybe that'll help some other agents that might be a step or two or three behind me in their journey. And around that time, I was listening to Gary Vaynerchuk. Gary Vaynerchuk recommended, this was back in January 2016, that no matter who you are, no matter which industry you're in, you should write an article for your industry about why you're using Snapchat for that year. And I literally took that and I went to Inman and I went to a couple other industry publications. I wrote this article about why I was jumping into Snapchat for real estate. And I sent it to him and I was like, hey, I'd like to contribute an article. Would you publish this? And they said, yes, they did. I had a couple of them say yes, actually. And Inman published that Snapchat article in January 2016 with my Snap code, the little QR code with a ghost in the middle, with that code in it. Once it published, the next morning I woke up with like 1,500 new followers on Snapchat. It was just boom, 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 boom. And then the next morning, same thing. And I'm like, holy shit. I have like 5 people following me in Salt Lake, and I have like 3,000 or 4,000 people who are real estate agents all around the world following me. I should probably speak to them. And so I just started doing more of the stuff that I do here on this podcast, and you see me do on social, where I'm showing agents what I did to grow a business and start selling some homes. And through that, that's what opened the door to launching this podcast. That's what opened the door. You guys are listening to me now because I decided at one point to tell Inman News to get published to help my local real estate website. That's all I was trying to do. I was just trying to help my local real estate website sell more homes locally. They published it to the industry. The industry starts following me and they start to know me as the Salt Lake City agent who's on Snapchat. And I start getting a bunch of referrals. And it showed me, holy shit, there's real power in speaking to social media, in putting my story out there authentically. And over and over and over, 10 seconds at a time, which is as long as the snaps were back then, I would tell these stories and show that I'm using Canva to create this graphic. And then I'm setting up a Facebook ad this way and blah, 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 blah. And most people, I think most people probably at some point got bored with it, but those that wanted more, they became my audience. Some of you guys listening probably remember that article and probably remember finding me on Snapchat and have followed me since, because I found the right people and you found the right person that you want to follow as well. So that taught me that super powerful lesson. But guys, I was such an absolute train wreck for the majority of my life and career. Okay. And battling limiting beliefs. I mean, I just happened to choose the right path and happened to become good at creating content, but I still had all these limiting beliefs that I couldn't be successful. I couldn't have a healthy income. I couldn't be rich. I couldn't be successful one day because I don't know anyone who is. But because of this journey, because of the podcast and networking and speaking at other conferences and just meeting other people, I now have friends that make multiple $1 million per month. I have multiple friends that make multiple millions per month, not just in real estate, but in different businesses, that now like that's normal to me. So what do you think that does for my mindset? That helps me level up dramatically when I know that my friend is over here driving a Ferrari or his Lamborghini and is going, flying on his private jet to this or that. And it's not about the flashy stuff. That's not it. It's the freedom to have that stuff if you want it. They're trophies. Okay. Those are trophies that show, hey, I've done certain things. I've reached these levels. I just reached Ferrari level. I just reached private jet level. I just reached whatever. Okay. And if you don't aspire to those, cool. Maybe you just want to travel more. Awesome. You're going to need a lot of money to do that. Cool. Whatever your goals are, whatever speaks to you, awesome. But don't bemoan. Here's a little random lesson that I've learned. Don't ever bemoan or don't ever talk shit on somebody else's dreams or goals or what makes them happy. Okay. If somebody else wants to invest or spend their money on a Lamborghini or a Ferrari or whatever the hell, who are you to say that that's a waste of money? If they make $1 million a month, what's writing a check for $250K to buy a Ferrari, right? Paid off, done. Who are you to say that that's not a good use of money? If you ever aspire to be successful, you need to stop criticizing and talking down on those who are. You need to start respecting those who are. Now, only the ones that are worth respect. Some of them are pieces of shit, but the vast majority of really wealthy, successful people that I know are amazing human beings. They're some of the most giving, some of the most charitable, some of the best fathers and mothers that you could ever imagine, some of the best members of the community, some of the best mentors ever. They just happen to make a bucket load of money every month. So that's something I learned too, is if you aspire to be rich, if you aspire to be a top producer, don't talk shit on those who are. Find something that they've done that you can praise and be like, that's awesome, good for you. Or if they post, hey, I just reached this new milestone, or I hit this new level, instead of being like, oh yeah, well, he's a douchebag anyways, how about you say, that's awesome, that's so freaking cool, I am working to get there myself. That little change of mindset there is huge. So guys, I'm somebody that I worked at car wash, I detailed cars, I worked construction, I was a piece of shit debt collector that would call when people were behind on their gym memberships. And they're like, well, they never told me that I couldn't cancel. And I was like, you should have read your contract. I was the piece of shit on the other end of the line doing that. But I'm just a guy. Okay. Every single one of you guys can reach very high levels of income, very high levels of success in whatever that looks like for you. You have to decide that you want it first. You have to decide that you're going to do it first, and then just start taking steps forward. It wasn't until I launched this podcast and started growing an audience beyond what it was prior, and then started earning some residual income with my brokerage and the coaching and selling more homes and all this stuff and investments that I made. It wasn't until I started networking with others where I was like, wait, I can be rich too. I can make $1 million a year too, because he does, and she does, and she does. Why the hell can't I? And then when you're friends with those people and they're sharing what they're doing, I'm telling you guys, you've heard this so many times. You are the byproduct of the 5 people you spend the most time with. That could be a good thing. Congratulations. Or that could be a bad thing. I'm sorry. And if you look around at the people you spend most time with and they're not where you want to go, if those 5 are not at the level you want to get to, you need to change your 5. You need to get in different circles. You need to get in different rooms. I'm sorry, I don't know any other way to do it. That's just the way it works. If you hang around a bunch of bums, a bunch of lowlifes, and then you think that you're going to make $1 million a year running a successful business, and then scale it to be a business to where it doesn't need you to operate, you think you're going to do that while all your friends are pieces of shit that drink all the time and that play video games all the time and they don't do anything? You can't do that. So if you hang around 5 super wealthy, successful killers, you're going to be the 6th. If you hang around 5 bums, 5 low lives, 5 dipshits, you're going to be the 6th. Sorry. Don't know any other. There's no way around that, guys. If you don't like that, I'm sorry. If you do like that, congratulations. The best thing is you have the opportunity to change that. Okay. I'm not some special person. I'm not a fancy writer. When Inman published my article, I was blown away because I'm like, I'm not some writer. Here's what I found out though. They weren't looking for someone who's like a New York Times Pulitzer Prize winning writer. They're looking for someone whose shit is readable, that people will read. And I learned from the feedback I got that the way that I write is the way that I talk, and people can relate to it, and it's easy to read and digest. So I'm like, holy crap, I always thought I was a bad writer. And I always thought it was a liability, a negative, that I couldn't write with, I don't even know. I can't even describe like the right way to write, the fancy way, like the douchey way to write, the classical writing or whatever. I don't know. I just write the way I speak, and it's easier for people to read because they can hear me speaking the article to them. So something I thought I sucked at, I'm actually very good at. And it wasn't until I decided to go after publishing an article or asking to have one published that I realized that. because my whole life I'm like, I'm not a writer. I hate English class. It was always my least favorite class ever. It's crazy. How many things do you think you suck at, but you're actually very good at? And you probably don't know the answer because you have to do some shit to find out. You have to try some things before you find out. How many of you guys have told yourself you're not good on camera? But then if you get on camera and a bunch of people watch and it resonates with them and you find out, I guess you're pretty damn good on camera, aren't you? Maybe your definition is just different than what everyone else's is. So guys, I tell you this story as somebody who spent I didn't even tell you this part. I spent the majority of my 20s addicted to pain pills. So back in college, when I got injured, somebody taught me what OxyContin was. And I had one every now and then. I was like, oh, that makes me feel better for a minute. Cool. I go back to Salt Lake. I go back to Salt Lake and start working in this car wash in this detail bay, and their OxyContin pops up again, and people are like, hey, have some and make the day go faster and more enjoyable. So I'm like, okay, cool. And pretty soon I became addicted to that shit. And so I was battling that as I was trying to keep these jobs. Like that's part of why I lost both those jobs within the same week. And so I got over it. I decided at one point, I'm going in the wrong direction. I'm writing bad checks to be able to get money to buy this shit. I can't afford to do anything else. This is pathetic. I don't like the people that I'm hanging out with to do this stuff. I don't like this. This is not the direction I want to go. And I thank God I had the sense to say enough. So I went to a doctor and have been able to solve it and fix it. And I've been clean for, a decade plus now. But that's all part of the journey, guys. Like if this former pain pill addict and car wash employee can have you listening to 30 or more minutes of a podcast every week, why can't you have people listening to you? You have a message that people need to hear. There are people out there that are waiting to hear your message from you. Have you ever thought of that? There are literally people out there that need your message. They need to hear your story in the way that only you can tell them, but you're not telling them because you have told yourself no one wants to hear it. Crazy. Guys, thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for the messages. I love hearing what you're up to. I love hearing what's going well. If you're struggling, I'm always interested to hear that too. I do this show for fulfillment, and knowing that you guys are listening and getting value from it is super fulfilling to me. So thank you guys. Appreciate you sticking through this episode, hearing about the life and times of Dustin Brohm and my ridiculous story. But I just want you to leave with this. If this guy can do it, if this guy can create a podcast, if this guy can do some videos that people watch, why the hell can't you? If I can get people, if I can sell homes, why can't you? It starts with a decision, guys. It starts with a decision that you're going to do that. And then follow people who have what you want. Follow people that have what you want, that have reached a certain level, that have attained a certain milestone that you want to attain yourself, and just do what they did. It's simple. It doesn't mean it's easy, but it's simple. And some of you guys just keep yourself too busy doing busy work to really make any progress because you're busy doing all the little bullshit that you should probably hire out anyways. Thank you guys for listening. Appreciate the hell out of you. See you guys next week.